O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.
I guess I grew up on an older road.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 129 of the Hunting Collective. I'm Ben O'Brien. I'm joined by Phil the engineer. Phil!
Ben!
How's it going, buddy?
It's going all right.
Well, I'm excited today. Today's a good podcast. We've got some of my favorite people on, some of the most inspiring people that I know on. Yeah, we are Phil and I are very well aware of the unrest going on in the world, and we'll hope to address some of those things today. But one of the big updates we got to give is Phil and I are allowed to be in the same room once again.
Yes. I think I don't think they want us to be in the same room.
Yeah.
But we
Phil had to fight.
We didn't give them a choice.
Phil had to fight to get in the same room. That's how much he missed me.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I'm back in the office pretty much full time, but Phil is being kept away.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll have to talk to HR about that, but I fully support you coming back to work, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Are you like most people in our company? I think most companies and most people that have kids the age of our kids really want to come back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Really are valuing that office time. You feeling that there, Phil?
Man, like a month ago, I just noticed my patience meter. It's been dropping.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a step back and am I a bad person? Am I a bad father?
No, you're not. Maybe we'll have to bring in Mango to see. But I feel like that's only natural. It's only natural to feel guilty about those feelings as well. So it's just everybody's going through them, especially those that have been home with their kids and are not used to that. But we're back in the studio. We'll do better than last week. I felt like we were just a little bit uncomfortable being around each other, Phil, last week. We didn't know what to do.
Yeah, we forgot how to interact.
Yeah, physically. I don't know, look a person in the eye. I don't know what that even feels like anymore. But you look great. You've been working out during the quarantine?
I did that thing that I do every single year where the weather starts to turn, and I'm like, I'm going to start running. And then I run exactly 3 times.
Yep.
And then I stop.
Oh, well, that's a good tradition. that's a wonderful tradition. I've started recently. I will admit this. I'm going to get shit for it, I know, but I started yoga.
That's something I'm interested in too.
Yeah, dude, it's great. I feel so stretched out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Gumby walking around, this son of a bitch.
No, that does sound great.
Oh, it's great, dude. It's just the hips, like my hips. I don't know what was wrong with them before, but now they're fixed. It feels great, man. So everybody out there, feel free to make fun of me at thc@themeateater.com or at BennyOB301 about my beginning yoga. I'm just doing it at home, and my kid does it with me, so it's super cute, I promise. Mm-hmm. He's doing the moves, I'm doing the moves, he's laughing, I'm laughing. It's great. You'll trust me. I just feel the skepticism coming from the audience right now. But we got a couple of emails to get to, then we're going to give my good friend and everyone's good friend, Charles Rodney, a call and talk to him about the goings-on, his perspective on the current situation and his life story, because his life story is about as interesting and as anything that I've heard. Those of you that have listened to this podcast know Charles the Rabbit Man Rodney is a rabbit hunter. There's so much more to know about him. So we're going to talk to him about that here in a minute, and then we're going to get to Matt Best, one of the co-founders of Black Rifle Coffee, former United States Army Ranger, and then his good buddy and my good buddy, former guest of the show, Omar Crispy Avila, who was a sergeant and is also a recipient of the Purple Heart and the Combat Infantry Badge, among other things. That conversation particularly was interesting to me because I didn't do very well, Phil, with Matt and Omar.
Yeah.
I haven't listened back to it. I haven't had time, but I felt like these two individuals were so incredibly positive amidst, what is some terrible things happening in our nation. I thought the questions I was asking them, I felt like had a bit of a negative connotation, or were looking to get into these sticky situations. And both of them, to a T, were eloquent, honest, and positive about everything that I asked them. And they kept just returning to, hey, look, there some of the more negative things that are spun up right now just aren't a reality for me. And I thought that was pretty inspirational. So hopefully you guys stick around for Matt and for Omar. And I will just issue a brief apology to them for sucking at interviewing during this. So you can listen to the interview knowing that I feel I didn't do a great job and I felt they knocked it out of the park. So enjoy that. But before we get to that, we got some emails. Phil, you ready for some emails?
Yeah.
We got, I think, 2 fun ones and 1 not fun one.
Okay.
The third one is so not fun that I'm nervous to even approach it. But hey, that's what makes THC. So the first one, have you heard about how they're going to do Elmer Fudd without a gun, Phil?
No. What's he going to have?
Well, he's going to have a scythe. You know what that is? I was trying to make sure I
do, yes.
Is that how you pronounce it? Because I've used one. I used one on the back 40. You can see it in the film.
Yeah. I mean, they were originally created to help, clear greenery and clear fields. But, if you don't know what it is, still when you picture the Grim Reaper. That is the quote unquote. I almost call it a weapon, but it wasn't created as a weapon. It's a tool.
Yeah,
but it's like it's a large staff with a long curved blade at the end.
Yes, it doesn't really matter what he's using. The fact that he's not using his traditional gun is what matters. So Joe Celentano, I got that right. Celentano, that feels good. He says, "I'm guessing 100 other people will have or already have sent you this." That's true, Joe. Everybody sent this to me. But it's crazy to think that a scythe will be taking the place of Elmer Fudd's gun in the name of stopping gun violence. Obviously, Elmer Fudd has always been and made a huge exaggeration to the misconceptions about hunting, but now using an instrument that isn't even for hunting would seem to make the act less humane. Regardless, I'll still probably watch it with my 2-year-old and enjoy it as I did with the child. He said, thanks for tackling the uncomfortable topics. No problem. I love it. Man, listen. I'm not real sure. I want to read up on this. I'm not real sure what to say about this, but it is. I just got done recording next week's podcast that is talking about the culture war a little bit. We talk about this with Matt and Omar a little bit as well. But I think this is just another symptom of a lot of people are fighting to remove certain things from our culture. And this is a silly one. And we like to talk about the silly
I'm
ones.
in full support mostly because I think the image of Elmer Fudd just wrecking shop with a scythe sounds hardcore as hell, and I'm game.
I'll just read from Fox News here. I bet that just triggered a few people. Elmer Fudd has made a big change for the newest series of Looney Tunes cartoons. In the latest update of the series called Looney Tunes Cartoons, wow, and streaming on HBO Max, the iconic character will no longer use a gun, according to the people behind the show. Here's my favorite quote of all time. "We're not doing guns," executive producer Peter Braungard told New York Times, "but we can do cartoony violence. TNT, the Acme stuff. All that was kind of grandfathered in." Slow clap.
Well, listen, honestly, I think...
Peter! Don't interrupt me, Phil! Hollywood, you be full of just idiots. Go ahead, Phil. You're going to support this fella.
I think hunters should be happy with this change because like the email said, Elmer Fudd has been portrayed as like a dope the entire lifespan of the character, running around with his gun just shooting willy-nilly, using it incorrectly. And he's, and he's made hunters look stupid for decades. And now he's not even really a hunter anymore.
There's
like
a clip
farmer.
here. There's a clip here of where he's wearing the exact same clothes, right? The exact same stereotypical setup. They just like swapped it out. It seems more immediately dangerous that he would be, and then just gruesome that he would be chasing him around with a blade like this.
I said, that sounds great.
Hollywood, you're full of just nonsense, and it keeps this show entertaining. So keep it up. And as we Phil, we're going to look at the culture wars on this show, and as we do that, it's important to keep in mind that much of the culture wars in America is dumb and really just idiotic, and this is one of them. That people are trying to change people's minds in the dumbest way possible. And if I watch this, I will watch it while eating an Impossible Burger and marveling at how it bleeds. Picking me up?
I'm not coming over for this event.
You're not going over? You're not coming over for this event at all? All right, well, we're moving on. I hope as a pro shotgun to rabbit, as it's nice that we'll ask Charles when he comes on what he thinks about this. But as a pro shotgun used for killing rabbits guy, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But thanks, Joe, for writing in, and thanks to the other 300 people that wrote in to let me know that this was going on. The next email comes from Corey. What's wrong with these people's names? Did anybody listen to this podcast whose name is Jones? S-C-H-E-I-P.
S-C-H-E-I-P. Shipey? Shipe.
Shipe. We'll go with Corey Shipe. He says, "Hi Ben, what is that? I was on a bike packing trip. I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
Nope.
Bike packing. Were you packing the bike around?
Well, I think it's like backpacking, but with a bike. So you probably ride out into the mountains, and then you sleep, and then you ride out some more.
Sounds good. Whatever you guys want to do.
I think it sounds fun.
Yeah, it sounds great. I was on a bike packing trip this weekend in North Carolina, a couple of national forests. We festooned our bicycles with camping and fly fishing gear and headed out for a short overnighter. It was great fun. We explored new country, and the weather was beautiful. On the way to our meeting spot for the trip, I listened to THC number 125 with Miles Nolte, and I believe it was Miles who suggested River Rocks for natural teepee. Now, if you don't know, this is in the context of, really what has defined the Meat Eater brand and Phil's first crap in the woods. Are you still feeling the shine off that story?
Yeah, I've got something to add after these emails regarding that, but continue.
Oh, you haven't... Oh, that's a lot of suspense. Also, I got to tell the time I crap my pants, but we'll just do that next episode.
No, hold on. I feel like I'm setting this up for something big. It's not. Friend of the show, former guest Eric Hall, sent me a book.
He did.
Called How to Shit in the Woods. So big shout out to Eric Hall. Thank you.
Eric!
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy. You're we still want to have you over for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We love you. But getting back to Corey here. Corey says... he wants to give us a suggestion. He said, "I tried this today and I have got to say, while it may work, if you are on the East Coast and particularly in the Appalachian Mountains, I must urge you to toss the rocks aside and find some rhododendron." Didn't see that coming. Find some rhododendron. Particularly, this is a rhododendron maximum, not to be confused with the near lookalike, but much smaller leafed mountain laurel that is ubiquitous in these forests. I've highlighted rhodos, as he calls them, top 3 qualities for wiping your ass. 1, large surface area and suitable shape. 2, waxy coating and thick leaves for durability and minimal pass-through. So far.
Minimal pass-through.
I'm going to start growing rhododendrons in my backyard. 3, high leaf density means A, ready reload, and B, thick cover to protect the eyes and snouts of passersby. Cue Phil and the Curious Dog. Please pass this along. Thanks for the fantastic show. Now, but it's good that this interaction where the listeners are helping you along, and hopefully when you finally get to hunt, we'll have the same interaction, and you'll tell everyone all the problems you're having and how I'm not helping you at all and how I'm an awful hunter, and then the listeners will fill the gaps in. That's what I'm hoping for. You look forward to that?
Yeah, sure. In case the listeners haven't noticed yet, whenever I say "yeah, sure," it means I'm just trying to move along. Just
move along.
Get to the next subject.
You're not going to want to. This is the third email, and it's the one that's not fun.
Okay.
So you just made a mistake.
All right.
Rhododendrons was way better than what we're about to talk about.
Okay.
So our buddy Elias Torheiden, one of my favorite emailers, emails all the time. He always he always almost makes it on the show every time he emails in. And so good on you for knowing what gets me up in the morning. He says, "Hey Ben, still a big fan of your podcast," as if other people have dropped off somehow.
No, I think just, bringing up the whole, just not talking, whenever you talk about something that's not hunting, especially with what's happening in the world right now.
Oh yeah.
I think people are just like, "Hey man, I'm still a fan," even though I'm sure a lot of people aren't anymore.
Well, hang on to your hats, everybody.
Okay.
Here we go. I've definitely noticed that you and many other Meat Eater crew members seem to identify as relatively right-leaning. I'm probably considered fairly left for a Canadian, which makes me far left in the U.S., I guess. What I find really interesting is how liberal most of you guys seem when it comes to science and wildlife management, and even a lot of social issues. You all do a very good job of mostly keeping your politics out of sight, but how do you square the two sides internally? This is probably more of a drinks conversation, but you're a busy man, and I live 700 miles away, so I'd give it a shot via email. Phil, do you feel uncomfortable talking about politics?
Not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
No, because I honestly, I used to feel like there was a lot at stake, but now I feel like I don't really care, and also I think it's good to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandfather, bless his heart, man, he was a traditional fella. He used to say, sex, politics, and religion. Don't talk about that at the dinner table. He did. I think that occurred to me like the opposite, because that's the stuff that I think is interesting. And if the conversation isn't uncomfortable and it isn't getting to some core issue that we're all trying to manage, it doesn't seem interesting to me. So in this case, politics. I think most people that have hunting podcasts or in general, I know Randy Newberg talks about a lot about politics on his show, but most folks tend to stick to the hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're an avid listener of all hunting podcasts outside of the Meat Eater Network.
Yeah, I've got a spreadsheet comparing every hunting podcast. Yeah, exactly.
It's generally unless you work for an NGO or someplace like the NRA or a spot like that, you're generally not diving into politics as much as other things are. Same with sports. You're there to play sports, politics seep in and become kind of an uncomfortable thing. So I would just say my view on this is if you're going to listen to me talk about every like anthropology and paleoanthropology and race and all this other stuff, like nothing should be off the table, and intentionally nothing is off the table in terms of what we talk about. So let me just quickly, Phil, if you're comfortable, talk about my politics. Can I do that for a minute?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I feel like it's not going to be anything I haven't heard yet.
Yeah. For those of you that, good point. For those of you that have never heard me talk about politics and don't want to hear that at all, we'll take a brief break and let you fast forward. Okay, we're back. Politics. Listen, I think I've been able to vote. This will be the 5th election I'll have been eligible to vote in. In the previous 4, I have voted for 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I'm not saying that to make a point. I'm just saying that's how it landed. So my politics are independent and all over the place, and there's a little bit for everybody to get upset at, I think, in general, and how it goes. But it's one of the reasons what we came into this saying, pro-nuance, anti-bullshit. It's one of the reasons we came into this trying to at least imbibe a journalistic perspective while also being honest about our worldview, at least my worldview. So that's how I come at it. Like, in terms of what I'm thinking for this election, in terms of how I'm thinking about it right now, I'm so disenfranchised with the entire system, with the entire conversation. I have no idea if there's anyone that I could even vote for in all good conscience, especially the 2 folks that will be on the ticket here coming up in the fall. Neither of them is qualified in my estimation, and I don't think either political party really has much of a leg to stand on when it comes to solving some of the greater issues in this country. So I don't know what that makes me. I think socially, I generally lean left. Economically, fiscally, the way we run this country, I probably lean right. I mean, but that's just generalizing to a point that I'm not comfortable with. So I just am not comfortable with the buckets, and I think the idea that there are these sides to lean to one way or the other is what's wrong with the conversation anyhow. Anything surprising there, Phil?
Nope.
Do you feel like that's a non-statement?
I don't think that was a non-statement. No, I think a lot of kind of centrist or libertarian type views can often lead to non-statements. Or it's like I used to follow kind of a lot of, well, not used to, a couple people like who would consider themselves libertarian, and they would always post these things are like without any, just like hot air. It's bad on this side and it's bad on this side. So they just throw their hands up and are like, whatever will we do? And it's like, well, fight for something.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can make progress.
Yep.
And that's why it's the both sides isms. I just like bug the shit out of me because I feel like you're not actually fighting for anything.
Yeah. No, to make it safe, like what I would fight for generally just doesn't fit into that one. And that's one of the things when I say like having these ideologies have to fit into one version or the other. There's so much self-fulfilling prophecy there. If I'm voting conservative, do I have to align with every other idea that comes with that sect, comes with that political party? For me, I believe strongly in the Second Amendment. That leans right, eh? I believe in tech and protecting the environment. I believe in things like biodiversity. I tend to believe in capitalism. I tend to lean towards capitalism more than things like socialism or democratic socialism. I tend to lean towards that. I tend to think wokeness and performative wokeness is a bigger problem than greed when it comes to capitalism. So I could list all the things I tend to believe, and then you can grade them however you feel like, wherever that puts me in the spectrum. I'm comfortable with that. I know that's what happens. I know everybody has, and we talked about this, one of the things that I really admired about Omar and Matt, I asked them kind of, is there a purity score in hunting and in gun culture that you have to take as a quote-unquote influencer? And if you're not doing certain things, are you not in the club? And both of them said, no, that's bullshit. There is no purity test. I say what I say. I do what I do. I am who I am. And their rejection of that idea is part of why I say I didn't do a great job in chatting with them, because I set it up in a negative connotation, negative context. And so I'm always happy to talk about any issue. We will continue to talk about any issues, but hunting is what we're here to talk about. And that's kind of the worldview, and that's already been articulated here, and that's where we start. But where we go from there, who the hell knows? So politics, to your question, Elias, there's no real way to square up a company and a group of people who come from a bunch of different places. It's just like, are these guys all right? Are they all left? Is their mission this? Is their mission that? I can tell you for sure that we've been called left. We've been called way right. We've been called everything in between. I can tell you that this collection of people is more free-thinking and more forward-thinking than any that I've been a part of in my professional career. And so if you want to label meat eaters one thing or the other, good luck with that. I'm sure you can find evidence to support one argument or the other. But now we got to get to the more important thing. We know that we want to talk about race in the outdoors. We know that we want to talk about the current situation, and we want to find some perspective. So who better to call than my friend Charles Rodney? Phil, you ready to call Charles?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. That's like the second. That's like anymore. That's like the transition.
Uh-huh.
The transition for the show. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's see if Charles picks up. Mr. Rodney at home in Maryland.
Hello.
Charles, you hear me, buddy?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing fine. And yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm here with our engineer, Phil. Say hey, Phil.
Hey, Charles. How are you?
Fine, Phil. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you.
Well, we were just moving through, Charles. I know we talked a little bit about everything prior, but we were just moving through some of the race in the outdoors and some politics things, some more uncomfortable conversation. And I wanted to chat with you really quick about your story. Listeners of the show will know you as the Rabbit Man, the Church of Rabbit Hunting, which we love so much. But you wrote to a piece that is going to be on the MeatEater.com really soon about your story, right? About where you came from and how you spent your life and some of the things that you experienced in the segregation of the South.
The piece I sent you the piece I sent you a few days ago.
Yes, sir. That's the one.
Okay.
That's all right. You want to kind of take us through listeners that listen to episode 30 will know your upbringing, but can you kind of just take us through how you grew up in Louisiana?
Okay. Born and raised in Louisiana, a little town called New Roads, Pointe-Coupee Parish. Louisiana has parishes rather than counties. They're the only state. About 30 miles west of Baton Rouge. Growing up, we were sharecroppers or tenant farmers. And what does that mean? You live on somebody who owns the land. You farm it. We farm cotton, sugarcane as crops to pay the bills and take care of us. And we got 3/4 of it, and he got 1/4 of it. You didn't pay rent, but you had to buy the seeds. You had to have your own tractor, your own equipment, your own labor. And in most cases, a lot of the labor came from the children. I was one of 7. I'm the last of 7. So we had to work in the fields. Cotton is planted in the springtime, like April. So we missed a bit of school to get the cotton going once they started growing, something they call hoeing cotton or scraping cotton. You have a hoe and you're working out in these fields, straight rows, lots of them, acres of them, probably 20, 25 acres. And then in the fall, August, September, you pick them. And we picked them by hand, which was like slave labor. But we were working for ourselves. So the living, it was survival. It was meager as survival. We made enough to carry us through. And then there was sugarcane. Sugarcane are planted in the fall, like August, September. And then they grow and you harvest them, that group, the following year, like September, October, November. They usually finish by December. There were cotton mills that bale the cotton. You took it there. There was a certain measurement that became a bale. And then the sugarcane was taken to the sugar mill by truck. They picked it up and they took it by truck and they ground it and became sugar. It was brown sugar, then they took it to another mill and granulated and made it white sugar. So we got to work in the fields. Not pleasant, but we had to do it. We missed school when you were of age, and so did many other people who, along with us, their children missed school and worked in the field, or they worked in the field for somebody else. Then we went to school. We went to Catholic school, Catholic elementary. My older brothers and sisters, who the oldest is 12 years older than me, he went to a number of schools that was in small Baptist churches along the road. We were 5 miles from town. So later on, the Josephite priests and the Sisters of the Holy Ghost who taught us established a Catholic elementary school for us, for the black children. And then we went on to high school. Now, even though we missed school, our mother taught us a lot. We caught up our lessons. We none had to repeat a grade. So I went on to college. My older brother is a Catholic priest. He's retired, 52 years. And the 3 in between, 2 sisters, one sister finished college with advanced degree, and the 2 brothers did machinist type work, welding. One worked in a machine shop for Rockwell in California, McDonnell Douglas, I mean. So and then we grew everything. We had pigs, we had cows, 2 or 3 cows. We got milk. We had gardens, we had fruit trees, so we canned everything. So all of that put us over through the next year. And we got a little bit of money from our parents, but most of it was spent. We had to pay tuition, which was low. Can you believe it? Tuition at a Catholic school was $2 a month. Then being the last, I paid $3 a month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now putting when my kids went to school, I mean, it was like college because they went to Catholic elementary and Catholic high. So we had a lot of tuition bills. But we survived. So we went on, and the schools, everything was separate. The school system was separate. The churches were separate. The doctor's office had the signs up where the colored go on that side. I vaguely remember the water fountains, but they were there. They were not in our little area, but they were in other little towns. there were stores where you had to go through the side door. And even though the people knew you, you were always called boy, okay, no matter how old. I was young. I lived there from birth in 1950, February 1950, until I left there in the summer of 72 after I graduated from college and I moved to Maryland and to Washington, D.C. to work. I did not want to stay there. There was nothing driving me to stay there. My family were not property owners. They were not business owners. So there was nothing there for me to inherit from the family and say, well, I got to carry on the family business. No. It didn't exist that way. I want to get the hell out of town. Okay. And I did. But everything was separate. Even though the laws changed, Brown versus the Board of Education in the 50s, it was 11 years before the high schools desegregated. The people fought it and they fought it and they fought it. And the government had to do like many other places, send federal troops in. And then once they sent them in, then right after that, they closed the schools. They didn't close them, but all of the white kids went to academies. Some rich person gave up some land and they started academies. And of course, we couldn't go there. Now I believe one of them still exists and it is turned into a high school. So I think there may be one or two people sending their children there. But when we grew up, there was one high school for blacks in the whole parish. Then there was two, while the white children had 5 schools, and we passed them. And we passed the church, the Catholic Church. We're Catholic. And we passed the Catholic Church. We passed one high school. Some kids passed 2. So it's very heartbreaking. You passing the school and you're going way over to another school, which means that you had to get up earlier. And the lessons were inferior. The books were inferior. And we used the books that were hand-me-down because you could see the names. I recognized the names of many of the white kids that grew up along the road along with me. So you got the hand-me-down books and so forth. And in 67, when they forced that integration and they started closing the kids, the white kids went to that academy and other academies. Many of them were established, but only 1 or 2 succeeded because they had a lot of money behind them. Okay. And then people would move their children, some of them to Baton Rouge to go to school so they wouldn't have to mingle. Now, these are the very same people that you interacted with every day. And when you go to the store, I remember this, going to some of the little country stores, because there's little country stores every mile or so. None of them exist today. But when you would go, the people that own the stores never wanted to give you your change in your hand. They'd put it on, you'd put the money down. They wouldn't take it from you in your hand. You put the money down on the counter, and they put the money down on the counter when they gave you your change. Not so you would touch. Thought I had Corona or something way back then.
You talked about in the story that you wrote about the local swimming pool and playing basketball with white neighbors, basketball and baseball with white neighbors, that they were allowed to come in your yard, but you could never go in theirs. You talk a little bit about some of those examples. I mean, you have a lot of them.
But I'll tell you about the swimming pool because that's the briefest. And I'm long-winded, so do cut me off. I know we're on a time schedule.
Keep on going.
The swimming pool, okay. Still today, I can swim very little, which I learned later. But there was a swimming pool, and when the integration stuff started coming, they closed the pool. All of a sudden, the pool got closed because they didn't want us to mingle. Mainly it was a racial and a sexual thing. They didn't want them black boys in there with them white girls. Okay, so the pool closed. I don't think it ever opened again. Now about playing with the young white guys that lived around us. Yeah, we played ball with them. My cousin next door had an old basketball backboard that we rigged up, and we played ball on the dirt. And a couple of guys came over and played ball, and then we played baseball because we had a big yard, and we played baseball. And we would play with them, and they were invited to come over and sit, but we were never invited to go in their yards, okay? Mm-hmm. And that never happened. And we lived next door 2-3 doors. And in a house next door, there's 2-3 different families, white families, lived in the house. One lived there for a X period of time, and they moved, and then another white family moved, and we got to know them and so forth. And they were all around the same age, or my older brother's age. So we were not allowed to mingle. And one thing you were not allowed to mingle, and as I mentioned, Mama taught us there were certain people you can associate with, there's certain places you could go, and there's a lot of places you couldn't go. So you never associated with some of these guys because they had sisters. Now, I'm taking you back, and this is true. And the last thing you wanted to have said was, as we said, and I don't mean any disharm, that if you went in the yard and a little white girl looked at you and said something, somebody was there, a bunch of people could be there to beat you up, kill you. That's how a lot of people got killed, because somebody said something that was not true, or he looked at me, or he touched me, that kind of stuff. So we were protective of that. We were never allowed, if there were girls around, we were never allowed. It was always boys to boys.
Yeah.
My older brother, Francis, that I spoke about, that taught me about hunting, there was a fella lived 2 doors from us. They both loved to hunt. They were the same age. They loved to hunt, and they would go hunting together. But then one time, his sister wanted to go with him. So Mama stopped my brother from going, because the last thing she wanted to say, they out there in the field, in the woods, hunting squirrels and stuff, something be said, and then now you got all sorts of negative things happen. So that didn't exist. Okay. That's how that was. We were taught, and you handle it and you moved on. Now today, I mentioned that I see some of those guys now. They're still around, and they're just as nice as you want to be. All that was past. That was 50 years ago or better. My brother, as I mentioned, did the funeral, being a Catholic priest, and they're Catholic too. He did the funeral for one of the sets of people, mother, who was way up in age. My brother's 82 now, so this lady had to be in her 90s. And they called him to do the funeral because he grew up around them. He knew them. They knew him. And he called me and he named all of these guys, must have named 15, 20 guys that lived up and down the road that are still around, because this lady was some of their aunts. You know, it was this guy's mother, and then she was the aunt of 3-4 of them other guys and the cousins and so forth. So all them guys was there. And they welcomed him with open arms. But just to ask him to come and do her funeral, because he knew them and they knew him. And it was deemed very respectful. He said it was very, very respectful, because he could take it back and he could talk about things that went on back then. Plus, he speaks fluent Creole, so he could do the homily or the sermon in English or Creole.
Yeah.
And they love it when he comes in and do that.
Yeah, no, I think throughout your story, there's all these juxtapositions, and that's part of the article that you wrote and that we'll post. And you spent 25 years with various federal agencies working in human resources, staffing, position management, recruitment, counseling, employee training. And in all of that time, you're required to adjudicate complaints because of acts of discrimination, race, age, color, religion, national origin, mental and physical handicap. So you had quite the turn in your life, and you talk about that in this piece, and you also talk about, answer this question. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and then answer this question. You said, how did I survive the cultural transition from a segregated upbringing to a totally diverse environment? I think that's a huge and very important question.
Well, I'll tell you what. My editor, when she was editing, she said, I told her I give her free hand, so she added that piece.
That's your wife, Judy, by the way, your editor.
My wife, Judy. She's my editor and my critic. And she'll guide me and tell me. And she told me this morning, now, be an apostle, don't be mean. I said, I'm not mean. I don't have anything to be mean about. What happened, happened. But making from that transition is so ironic that I lived in a society that passed me over, discriminated against me, treated me indifferently, not because, like Martin Luther King, because of my content, but color and what had gone on centuries before. And then I come to Washington, D.C. for a job, and I get a job. I start a job with the Naval Ordnance Station, a little place called Indian Head, Maryland. Worked there a few years. I was probably the first or second black, but the first black specialist, which is kind of like a professional position there. I worked there, and I got tried a number of times. There were some nice people, and then there was one or two. There's always one in the group that's got to be totally indifferent. But I progress on because I had a family coming, and I knew I had to be successful. And nobody was going to take that away from me and turn me around. And I worked. I went to a number of other agencies, getting advancement all the time, becoming a supervisor, becoming a manager, managing people. So not only, and the people were, one time I had 7 females working for me. And I used to call them Charlie's Angels. I was Charlie and they were the angels from the old show. And they were mixed. All of the people that I supervised were always mixed because you had to ensure that you had a diverse staff, because the law said you gotta have that diversity and you gotta have a balance. And we always had a balance before in personnel. And then I was selected to work as the equal opportunity officer. As I am today, I get involved with all sorts of activities. One way, that's how I met you, Ben. Yep. And so I would get involved in the work of the agency, and they saw me as someone that would be good in that position. For those who don't understand that, equal opportunity means you have these programs that you provide service to the employees. You deal with complaints, alleged complaints. You counsel. You had a team of voluntary people who worked as equal employment opportunity counselors. They worked with me. I had specialists. I had to meet with managers and directors and so forth to guide them and to work through this process. And I had to be neutral and ensure that everybody got fair treatment. And the guidance and the direction I gave, it had to be fair and clear. I could not take sides for management. I could not take sides for employees, even though some people felt I should have taken sides, or there were some people I assisted, I should have shoved them by the wayside. So I ran it how I felt. And how I felt was that I need to be open. I need to talk to everybody. I need to treat people fair and ensure fairness. And I need to treat everybody in the fashion that I want to be treated. Now, I followed the rules. There's certain, in all offices, there's certain steps and so forth that you must go through, the same as you guys. You got certain rules and certain time frames and certain things you do and you don't do. The same thing exists today. And I did that. I got a lot of credit for it. People felt I was trustworthy, and you had to maintain confidence overall. I knew of things, and I would work to settle it. And when I would bring it up, I brought it up in utmost confidence. I think I probably turned some of the high ups off because there were some people that came to me that said some high executives had sexually harassed him. And back at that time, I told them how we would handle it and how to handle it and so forth. And they refused to do anything. And they didn't, hoping that it would go away. Well, it didn't go away because the is harm, whether they believe it was alleged. So whether they believe they were right or wrong, they believe they were right. Mm-hmm. And I told them how you handle it. So I ran the program in the best possible fashion that I could do. And people liked it. I was fair. They trusted me. And I would sit folks down, no matter who came into the office, male, female, handicapped, whatever. I listened. I closed the door. My staff, if it was one of them, had a small staff, they closed the door and we talked, and it stayed there, and we helped guide them properly through the process. Now, if they didn't have a complaint and they were just making waves and there were a bunch of people like that, I told them.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of your story and why I wanted people to hear you talk today, and why I wanted people to read your story as well, goes to how you were treated when you were a young kid coming up, and then how you carry that on to the rest of your life. And so, part of what I admire and what I think hopefully everybody that listens to this admires is that you were able to raise a family, have a loving children, loving wife, very productive, passionate about rabbit hunting, passionate about raising dogs, have a professional career that wasn't colored by your upbringing, wasn't colored by the segregation that you lived with growing up. And so it's nothing short of inspirational to me just to hear it, and I hope it will be to everybody as well. And you can read Charles's article coming up here very soon on themeateater.com, so check that out. Check out our newsletter for that.
And Ben, like I told you, if you have questions, or if you at some point down the road you need a part 2 or a part 3, I'm willing.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of time. I've got a good memory, and like I told you, if you have some questions that you would like me to respond, I'd be more than glad to respond.
Yeah.
And growing up was hard. We got along. We had loving parents. Our parents taught us respect of everybody. And I mentioned how my mother taught everybody catechism, religion training. And she never was paid a dime because she could read very well. At that time, she went to 11th grade, which was the equivalent of 12th grade. But she was an outstanding student. Because of money, she did not go to college. She could not go to college. But she had all of the makings there. And she taught everybody. And she read for folks. She read letters. She wrote letters. She did taxes for some of the guys, which in the neighborhood, all of that. And then my dad could not read, okay? He could write his name, but he could not read. He was born in 1900. She was born in 1910. There was 10 years different in them. But they had the respect. He gave everybody out of his garden chicken and so forth, and eggs and whatever he had, he shared, and he shared himself. And he was, both of them were full of kindness. And they made us pick this stuff and take it to these people and give it to these people. And we wonder, why are we growing all this stuff? And we grow this stuff, and we can, what we couldn't use, what we finished use, we gave away. Yeah. Today I find myself doing the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, you do that now. You're so generous with the people around you, the church. You have I don't want to say you have a group of church ladies there and that love you for your baking and for your rabbits and for your vegetables.
Yeah, and the sisters in the convent, I don't know who adopted who. Did they adopt me or I adopt them? I give them fish. Guys give me fish. I don't fish. They give me fish. I give it to them. My wife don't like bonefish. I give them the bonefish. One of the fellow gives me a box of deer meat. I give it to them, and they love it. I give them, I cook rabbits and go over there and eat with them and tell them, and I tell them stories. Of course, they love to hear the stories, and I stretch it a little bit just for them. So,
no, you do.
And I give them vegetables and give service. So you give it all back. Whatever you give folks, it comes back to you. Good stuff. I ain't talking about bad stuff, bad treating people or anything like that. You do good things regardless. It comes back. Now, the sisters in the convent, they're from all over the world. There's 10 or 12 of them there, and they're from about 10 different countries of various backgrounds, okay? And they are called, for anybody who wants to check them out, they are called the Servants of the Lord and the Virgin of Matara. Matara is a Spanish word. They've only been around 30 years, but they're the fastest growing group of sisters. They do charity work. They're in about 35 countries. They're just if you ever see some nuns walking around with a kind of a light blue and a gray habit, that's them.
Yeah.
And all of them in the city know me, of course. They got to know me.
Everybody knows you with your suits and your hunting stories, Charles Rodney. Well, listen, man, I could talk to you all day, and we'll have you back on to keep talking about this. But like I said, I couldn't thank you enough for being willing to share your story and being so open with it. I know
You're
a lot of
quite
people
welcome.
are inspired by it and are listening to you and learning from how you look at the world.
Well, let me say two quick things. I feel when I read all of the folks' comments, and I read them all, okay, and I love them. And all of you are so positive, even those who come from New Zealand and England and all over the country and places I don't know. I read them, I enjoy them. I feel like I'm the professor and you guys are the students, and that's all right. When I'm in the position where I'm the student with somebody that's a professor, I listen. And one closing thing, all what happened, even though it happened, that's the way the cards were dealt based upon my lifetime. And what I had to do, I had to play those cards and make them work successful for me. And I am not bitter. Some people might say, well, you ought to be bitter. Well, I'm not going to carry bitterness for my lifetime, for 50, something that happened 50 or 60 years ago. I am not bitter. Jesus taught us to love, and that's what it is. And as our pastor said in a sermon, we watched him on TV the other day, the mass on TV, since we can't go to church. He said, the guy who died is our brother. God is our father, whether you believe or not, and he's our brother. Floyd. So you look at it that way, and you think positive, and you try to do good, and life goes on, and life goes well, and life has treated me awfully darn good.
Yes, sir. And yet, like you said, what you've given people has come back to you, because when I spend time around your wife, Judy, and your stories about your children, you guys have a wonderful family. There's lots of love there. You've done things for the next generation that you never had. And even your grandkids will even experience more of what your positive outlook will give them.
Well, thank you.
The type of life.
And
it'll give
I
them.
thank you. I thank you guys for inviting me for this voice and for the document that I submitted to you. I thank you for asking me and considering, because I do feel that's a special treat, and I share it with people. And our children cannot wait to hear, and many other people. So I thank you, and I thank the whole Meat Eater Corporation family for all that you have done and exposed me to. Okay,
well,
truly,
it is our pleasure. I was talking to our mutual friend Phil Hoon the other day, and we started putting dates on the calendar for next year's rabbit hunt. So after all this is died down and we're back to doing what we love to do. And speaking about that, I know we'll probably both be happy men, but for now, I really appreciate you, Charles, and we will talk to you real soon, my friend.
Good. Well, look, thank you very much again, okay?
Thank you, Charles. We'll talk really soon, brother. I appreciate it, man.
All right. You're welcome.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
The great Charles Rodney going away there via Skype. Man, listen, I knew we should have gave Charles a whole hour. The one mistake that I gave, because I could listen to him talk for much longer than that, as we have on the show before. But what I will say is that I wrote this on social media the other day, and I was very happy to hear that Charles and his family members read it and felt moved by it in some way, or happy that I wrote it. But I do believe that Charles's story is one that is like bookended with this hatred and that came with segregation, and this feeling that all of that could have welled up and turned him into, as he said, a bitter person, but it didn't. And so the back half of his story is full of love and passion and friendship and community and all the things that I think are important to all of us on an intrinsic level. So his story, not only like the guy he is infectious, but I think his story and the way he presents it is also infectious. So hopefully, I wanted to make sure at this time, this day, that we heard from him, because I think the timing is important. And I think he is important. So Phil, any thoughts about what we just heard there?
No, I mean, it's always, you always hear about stories of segregation. Or at least I did, just like third hand through history books and it's just, it's really powerful to hear it from someone who actually lived through it and how it shaped the rest of their life, how they view the world now. And how Charles, specifically is using those memories to lead by example, and he's full of empathy.
For
and
sure.
It's up to us and people in power to make sure we fight so that people in the future have a better future than Charles did growing up.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at somebody who's done better by their children and their children's children, just look at Charles as an example. He's an example to me. I'm not saying that I know what to do, I know how to solve these problems, but I know for sure that if I listen to Charles and have you all listen to him as well, there's learnings in there. There's betterment in there. And so that's what is important to me. At this time, it's important that somebody like Charles has something to say and is willing to share it. So thanks so much to him, his wife Judy, and his entire family for being willing to kind of put themselves out there in this way. And thanks to you for listening to it. I will continue to ask him for advice and to just call him to chat, and we'll impart as much of that on the show as we can going forward, because this isn't going to be the last time we talk about race in the outdoors. Of course, it isn't the first either. So we're going to keep that at top of mind going forward. But for now, a little bit more talk about that, more talk about gun culture and hunting culture, and just being a positive force in this world. As I said earlier, Matt Best and Omar Avila impressed me as though I thought they wouldn't. They absolutely drove me. They gave me a good weekend, if I'm being honest with you. I talked to them on Friday, and Saturday and Sunday were glorious for me because I was following their example. So enjoy Omar Avila and Matt Best.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there, because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth.
Crispy, what's up, man?
What's up, brother? Thanks
What
for
are you
having me
doing?
on again.
What are you doing down there?
Nothing much. Just hiding from everybody.
Yeah, that's probably a good. I can't go any further. I wanted to do like pleasantries and shit like that, but I can't go any further without asking you about the rap song. Somebody wrote a rap song about you?
Yeah. So a friend of ours, the Marine rapper, he obviously he's a rapper and does all a bunch of stuff. And he hit me up. He's like, "Yo, I got a really, really good rap for you." And I was like, "All right, well, put it down. Let's do it." And he ended up send it to me. And that's the one that I posted the other day.
Dude, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's actually really good. So he's a Marine rapper?
Yeah, he was in the Marine Corps, got out, and that's his name is the Marine rapper.
Marine rapper. Whatever. People go over there to Crispy's page and listen to it. They'll probably go on tour pretty soon. But man, it is fucking fire, as the kids say.
We're working out the details. I'm supposed to come out with a flamethrower before the show starts, and then that's how we kick it off.
Okay. I got a lot. I even have more questions now, but before we get to that, Matt Best, what's up, man? What's up, Matt?
Brother. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, thanks for joining us. For those of you that don't know Matt, there's so much to know. But the first question I have is I was watching the quarantine music video that you made, and in that music video there was a little small shot of Charlie Sheen. And I was like, Matt Best knows Charlie Sheen? I gotta ask him about that. So,
yeah, we called in all of our famous friends to do a pretty cool cameo for that. Crispy was one of them, of course. We had to save the best for last. We put him later in the video. But Tim Montana, actually, who co-wrote that with me, is a friend of Charlie Sheen's. And so he's like, man, I'll get Charlie Sheen in the video. I was like, all right, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's that. I was very entertained. I was like, these dudes are musical to in a way that I never thought. So congrats. But
that's all Matt, by the way. I'm no way near. I have no talent in music. So
Crispy plays the the cowbell for us. So he's really good at
Yeah, I'm pretty good on the triangle. So if you ever need to come in there, it's all in the hips, the triangle. That's all in the hips. Well, that we want to talk about today, but we can't go any further. We can't do anything anymore without talking about the goings on in our world. So, like, let's start with quarantine. Matt, you were making everybody laugh during quarantine on your Instagram and YouTube. What was happening over your way during that time?
Man, I'm in a pretty fortunate position. I'm sure similarly to Crispy. I live on some acreage. I live in pretty much the middle of nowhere outside of San Antonio. And so my active lifestyle is working from home, and pretty much I have a home gym and I have a supply of food and water. And so I'm not really a prepper, but nothing extravagant really changed for me other than cutting back on a lot of the travel that I do. I normally travel like to 2 different states a week almost, and that got cut. So it's actually kind of nice to not have to travel. And I know a lot of people had a less fortunate experience during this than me, but it's kind of been nice to hang out with the dogs and the wife a little more.
Yeah, that's all. We did a daily show for a while right in the beginning of quarantine, and probably did 25 total podcasts during the time, when Montana, at least where we are, is locked down. And we didn't talk to anybody that was a hunter, angler, gun owner, whatever, that didn't say just about what you just said. Like, we're prepared. My life's set up in a way where I don't need much anyway. So I think that's just part of the lifestyle we all kind of lead, man.
Couldn't agree more. And that's kind of when we wrote that lyric into quarantine. All my anti-hunting buddies reaching out to me. I'm sure Crispy's in the same exact situation where people are like, man, you got any extra deer meat? I'm like, yes, but I ain't giving it to you. And then I got hit up to lend people firearms. I'm like, first, that's illegal. So it's an interesting psychological impact that it had on a lot of people that changed their kind of value system based off of necessity. And I think that hopefully it opens some eyes to a lot of people that might disagree with hunting and the Second Amendment. So I think, unfortunate times sometimes give you a little silver lining.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, I wonder what you think, Crispy, but I would just go out my garage and open up my chest freezer and just look into it. And it's like very satisfying just to look at it.
For sure. Like, dude, I did that almost every other day. I opened it and I was like, do I want axes? Do I want bear? Do I want whitetail? You know what? Maybe some of the red stag, or maybe some of this moose that I have left over from Alaska. And then I go back inside, you watch TV and all these people are on the stores like, there's no meat. I'm like, I got plenty of it. this is what we live off every single year. Like, this is not doomsday prepping. I'm not like, oh, we gotta, no one knew this was coming, but from the past season and everything that we do, fortunate enough to have had meat in the freezer, so we weren't running to the stores like everybody else and interacting with a bunch of people when they said it was supposed to be horrible and bad and all that crazy stuff.
Well, I think Crispy and I got pretty lucky too, because him and I had just ended a hunt before this happened. I killed a red stag and he killed a couple deer. So right when I got my meat back from the processor, I got about another 400 pounds of meat. So I was like, I'm good for a while.
I did. I had those 2 deer back, and then I had an axis, and I can't remember what else that I picked up the same time when all that stuff was going on.
Yeah, that's for us here. It's nothing changes other than the value other people put on what you got going on. The self-sufficient. I'll tell you guys, I've had a vegan on the show. His name's Dr. Robert C. Jones. He's a vegan philosopher out of Berkeley, which is all obvious. He and he said, I said, well, what's been going on with you during quarantine? He said, I've been thinking about self-sufficiency, and I thought, well, no wonder. And so like. I think even him, without knowing it, he wasn't mentioning that because of guns or game meat. He was thinking that he was going to try to learn to change his car battery instead of having someone else do it.
Yeah.
But that's like it bleeds into this idea that I think we all follow, that self-sufficiency and that knowledge base that we have about how to defend ourselves and how to go outside and get things just helps. It works in this scenario, Anything else, Crispy? Any other fun things in quarantine that you came up with? I know everybody needs to go watch Matt's quarantine video. What was that song called, Matt? What was the title?
Quarantine, shockingly, huh?
Not a lot, man. I got lucky. Like, Matt said, we both live in areas where, we're away from everybody. And down the road, I got a friend that owns about 800 acres and, still went turkey hunting, still went out there and had fun, rode around in my Polaris, shot my guns, did what I needed to do. I mean, everyday stuff. Again, like same thing that Matt said, nothing changed for me other than the travel, like, leaving the state and heading over and doing my speaking engagements and everything else that we do over at Black Rifle. Nothing really changed for me other than that. And same thing, like, I got to spend some time, with my fiance here at home and the dog and, just kind of drove each other nuts a little bit. But, it's kind of getting ready for marriage type, like, do we really want to do this? And I was like, you're all right, let's do this. But yeah, I mean, other than that, nothing, man. I mean, everything continued to be the same for me other than, doing collabs with other friends and going to see each other. Like, I really haven't seen Matt since this whole thing went down. And, we were literally texting the other day asking me, I told him, I was like, dude, let's do a crawfish boil and let's just all get together. I mean, I think it's time. Like, this is just gone on too long.
Yeah. What's Texas doing right now? I know you're there in all around Austin. Like in Montana, we're eating at restaurants, we're going and doing our thing. We're basically fully opened up. What are you guys working on?
I think we're at 50% capacity, Matt. Is that right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 50% capacity. I mean, Kristen and I went to a restaurant not long ago, I think about 3 weeks ago, and we went in there with my dad, and it was us and another family, and it felt a little eerie, like, man, there's really nothing going on. And then from that to 3-4 days later, I mean, everybody was back on the road and shopping in HEB, before there was a line to go inside HEB. Now everybody's just like, you don't even have to wait. People are no longer wearing masks, gloves, none of that. So I've noticed it, and I don't know, to be honest with you, even for me at the beginning, I was like, whatever, if I get it, I get it. I'll be all right.
After what you've been through in your life. And by the way, if you haven't heard our first episode with Crispy, we'll take a break and let you go listen to that. Welcome back. And now you know everything there is to know about Crispy. Matt, how did Black Rifle Coffee do during this time? How are you guys doing during this time, and what did you do to kind of to push things forward?
Absolutely. I think we're doing well. Fortunately, we are classified as an essential business because coffee is king in most of our lives. And the majority of our business, a little over 90%, is direct consumer e-commerce based. So we already had the technology kind of implemented for, meetings and VTCs and all these things. So we were kind of ahead of the curve. And right when this stuff started happening, we took preliminary measures and only had essential people, working in the roasting facilities, and then pretty much we let all marketing work from home, and we're still kind of in that battle rhythm right now of just, hey, if you don't need to be in, why be in? Keeping everything as far as the coffee and everything super quarantined, so we're being healthy and all that. But no, it's been pretty good. We a couple of the shops shut down for a while here in Boerne, Texas, where I live. We just got the coffee shop reopened, which was nice because that hit them pretty hard. And that's kind of been my biggest advocacy through all of this is if you have the ability financially to support local businesses, do it, because a lot of these people are on their last leg. And if you can get out there and, eat out 2 or 3 times a week, do it if you can. That's what I've been trying to do with my family is get out and support them, because a lot of them didn't have, cash reserves for 6 months to operate. And the last thing you'd ever want to see is local businesses fall.
Yeah. I've become a huge tipper. Not that I wasn't before, just to be clear, but I've doubled my tipping every time we go out. And I think it's just you can feel that. You can feel the thankfulness to those people. Understand that your patronage means a little bit more now than it did, because we've all I've got to see what it's like not to be able to just go out and grab a bite to eat with the family, and those folks have gotten to see what it's like to not have a place to go to work.
Indeed.
So it's been tough, but I don't think we can. I don't want to dwell on on the George Floyd stuff and the current state of affairs in the world too long, because I want to talk about hunting culture, gun culture, social media, all that stuff that you guys are immersed in, and so am I. But again, I don't think we can do a whole lot without at least touching on that. Crispy, you saw what I wrote with my black square on the internet. What are you thinking, man? Like, what's going through your head during all this?
I mean, there's just so much stuff going on, man, and I think now you have footage of what really happened, and I think stuff like this happens often and happens a lot, and you hear from it, but now you really have footage of what actually happened. And it just blows my mind how many people just start picking sides and how we start attacking one another instead of coming together and fixing our country and really attacking things like that are happening. And instead of pointing the fingers, it's all the police departments, it's all these guys. It's not all of them. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's that individual person. And, he was a shitty person. And I think we encounter that in everywhere we go. I've encountered shitty hunters. I've encountered shitty persons in the military and civilian world. It's not just the department and the people. I think it's the person, and ultimately that's what it is. And when you start getting support and you start getting all these things and people are actually out there talking about it, you see the division. You see how people can be cruel to one another, and that's kind of where I come in. And I guess that's kind of where the hippie side of me comes out. Is just like, yo, like, come down, stop attacking one another, stop being so radical. Let's come together, let's talk, and let's figure something out on how we can move on. Like, it happens, man. Like it. I've been racially profiled multiple different times, and it doesn't stop me from hanging out with my friends, and it doesn't stop hanging me like with my white friends or my black friends. It doesn't. The experience that I've had doesn't really make it that I can't hang out with white folks or black folks. You know what I mean? Like, it was that individual person that had hatred in their heart, because most of my best friends are white. And I can't sit here and tell you that every white person is bad, because it's just not. I think it comes down to being an individual person and having that hatred and the way you were brought up. And a lot of people like to point fingers at white people for being racist, and I'll be honest with you, man. Hispanic people are the most racist people I know.
I know, like, people know your story. Your dad drove you across the border with some birthday balloons.
Yeah.
And said and told the folks at the check station that you're going to a birthday party, and you never went back.
Birthday party, nope.
And now you're here, and now there's so many hundreds of thousands of people that follow you and see you as an American hero, which you are. How do you kind of relate that story to what all these people are feeling right now, and kind of the fight that they see? I'm sure there's like an appreciation for this nation and what it provided you, but also, like, what racism is.
Yeah, it's something that I battle with every single day, because you do see things like that, and it does hurt, and it makes me want to get out and just just go out and just go off on this person and go off on different subject matters. But I think that the older that I've gotten and the people that I've surrounded myself with, I've been able to step back and really think and really process things and then release a statement. But man, it is a hard thing to deal with. But ultimately, man, at the end of the day, the way that my parents raised me is always never act like a victim, always be kind to others, and always put yourself in somebody else's shoes and what they're going through, and then go from there. So, I mean, again, just so many mixed emotions, man. And I really, it's taken a few days to kind of talk about it. And what I really love is I've been able to call some of my Black buddies and talk to them and be like, hey, like, let's talk. Like, what do you deal with on a daily basis? And then I've done the same thing with some of my white friends. Like, hey, how do you feel you're being portrayed? And having conversations with people like that has really opened my mind to what's going on in the world and how we're so quick to judge others without really having a conversation and really slowing it down and understanding one another.
Yeah. Matt, what's I know like you've been active, you've talked about all kinds of things on social media. What have you found like thinking about talking about this or how your approach might be?
I think it's a hyper complex environment that we're trying to articulate here because there's so many different things happening. And first and foremost, I think with the tragic death of that individual, right? There's already criminal charges being placed against this police officer, which there should be. And I think there is a immediate solution to the individual that acted in criminal intent. And then from there, if you believe that there's a systemic issue within law enforcement, well, we don't change that by rioting, right? Peaceful protest is awesome, and I get it that you're spreading that. And kind of to Crispy's point too, I grew up in a military culture from 17. I served with Black, I served with Hispanics, I served with Asians, I served with gay. Who cares, man? Like no one cares, right? It's about the character of the individual that should define them, not wherever they came from. And I think most of us in 2020 believe that. But the problem is during these peaceful protests, you have trash terrorist organizations like Antifa, which are inciting violence, and they're breaking down the same economies, throwing rocks, and these looters are throwing rocks through businesses that are on the fallout of an economic crisis pre-existing from the COVID-19 stuff. And so you're damaging these communities and setting us back, let alone the taxpayer money that has to go into the communities. And people and I get it's hard to talk to youth sometimes, but they need to take a step back, be a little more emotional intelligent, go, how do I make the biggest difference here? And it needs to be unifying and not divisive. And if if there's a problem with law enforcement in your area, let's focus on that. But no one's talking about the multiple African-American or Black guys that have died during the looting and protests, police officers. There was a retired cop that got shot over a TV and killed. Like, where is the hysteria about that, because people are just so quick to have their own self-affirmation and look at me, and it's a bizarre world. And I think a lot of that is based and stemmed off of social media and this self-affirming bullshit that people put out. Like, I'm not a racist. Like, yeah, you shouldn't be, you dumbass. Like, why do you need to, that's why I didn't post the Black Square. Like, I don't need to convince Crispy that I don't like him because he's one of my best friends. I don't care that he's missing a leg and, it's still looks more handsome than me. No one cares about that stuff. It's about how he treats me. He comes over and treats my wife and me with respect and love. And I've had great stories with him, and never once, other than a couple jokes, have we brought up race. And that's just in fun thing. But we're family, and more people need to see that. And the more that we become divisive, like we're going to go down the white privilege route again. Like, it's just, I inherently disagree with it, and I wish people would come to the table with more educated conversation rather than emotional-based arguments and knee-jerk reactions. But that's our society because social media. Yeah.
Yes. It's sad to see people running to both sides of their political corner and trying to defend, to defend rioting or to defend a police officer that murdered a guy in broad daylight. It's like using your political stance or your worldview to defend violence. To defend lawlessness, to defend these things because you have an ideology that agrees with the reason for whatever happened. That doesn't make sense. You have to find other ways to solve these problems. And
it's escalation of force, right? I mean, and by force meaning you can start with conversation, escalate as necessary, right? I hope to never use violence against a human ever again, right? But if it comes to someone holding me and my wife at gunpoint, I'm going to drop his face with a bunch of 9mm rounds. But I hope to absolutely 100% never do that.
Yep, exactly. And so it's what you're shocked and appalled by the video of George Floyd, and then you move on to like what you move on from that. Everybody agrees that was awful. It was murder, and second-degree murder is at the very least the charge that police officer should have gotten. I haven't heard of anybody. I don't know if have you guys seen anybody not agree with that?
No, I think on all political spectrums, people are agreeing that it was murder. And that's where the judicial system comes in to get him a trial and convict him of murder, if that's the case, right? Absolutely, 100%. But like, there's so many more complex conversations going on here. Like, where are these bricks coming that people are dropping off? And like, there's so much out there that like, we should be a little concerned on who's influencing our society to act in this, because not that I'm a tin hat wearer, but people are trying to be disruptive in American society right now. It could be Russia, it could be Antifa. I don't know. I'm too dumb. But
Hillary Clinton,
those are bigger conversations that are dividing a whole entire country.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that Rahm Emanuel once said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste," and I'm sure he's not the first person to say that, and that goes both ways, right? It goes as like never let a good crisis go to waste in a positive way. Like when something like this happens, you can create change out of it. It can swell up into positive reform, but also there's plenty of people that think never let I'm going to be a crisis actor. I'm going to be someone who pushes these buttons and turns this into something it's not for my own personal gain. And
I mean, you see it every single day, dude. I posted the other day, and I posted today again. I guess it's, again, you said it the best. Never let it go to waste, right? And you're seeing people that are out there actively wanting to make a difference, make an impact in their communities, and then you have people that are out there acting like they're helping, like that girl that I posted where she was acting like she was helping, drill some plywood on a window because there was going to be a protest, and she literally got off, had her boyfriend take a picture, got back in her car and left, and that was it. Like, she didn't help at all, she didn't do anything. And I'm sitting there like, we want to make changes, we want to do all these things, we talk about how we should do it and what we should do, and then you have people like that just want the fucking picture and don't want to work or do anything. And then it's just like, it really upsets me when you see things like this, because they're just doing it for that social media, clout, I guess you can say, or what the cool kids say now. But it's just like, look at me, I was helping. And even today, there was this Russian actress that stood in the middle of the protest, half naked, that said Black Lives Matter. She took the picture, got on an Uber and left. Like, come on, people. We're here saying we want to make a difference. We want to do all these things.
Nothing.
We should like this. Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah, and that's where like everybody the criticism of the black squares come in, and I'm with that, man. I'm with it. Like, that's fine. Post that. Oh well. But what are you doing? What are you really doing?
Exactly.
What are you really saying? What are you really willing to say? Because a lot of times, even for the three of us, like there's I say something, I lose followers. Everybody has a little bit of something to lose, so that makes it easier just kind of stay out of the fray, right, Matt? I mean, Matt, you're a co-founder of a huge business. You have something to lose if you speak out. I assume, at least.
Well, yeah, I mean, I pick and choose my battles, right? Of course, and I've been asked about that before, and I've put all my passion and desire into the veteran community and making change, and that's why we work with guys like Crispy who have the same perspective on where they want to change life. I'm only one man. I can only incite so much change in a positive way that I believe in. And for me to get engaged in emotional conversation that's not fact-based is a lose-lose for me personally. So that's why I stay a lot away from that. And like, does racism exist? Yeah, of course it does. There's piece of shits in this world. We all know that. But why paint that all Mexicans are racist or all white people are racist? Like, no, the majority aren't. Let's band together and fight against racism and educate people that it has no correlation to the type of person they are based off of their race. And that's what we should be doing, not like having these factions of people fight and then women stripping naked to take a photo and going away in their $30 black Uber or whatever the case. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we've kind of like this thing has devolved into something that I don't think anybody could have predicted when it first started. And I think a lot of that is connected to what we started talking about. People are desperate, they're disenfranchised, And the one thing I'll say, and I've said it on the show before, is I'm enfranchised. I love this country, and I know both of you guys do because you fought for it. And I want everyone to feel like I feel.
Yeah.
I just want you to feel the way I feel about this country, this world. I think I'm lucky to be alive. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, damn right, and I get going.
Amen. Amen. And wake up in a country where everybody has the same opportunities. And this is coming from a person that was here illegally, 20 years ago or whenever the hell we came, or I don't even remember, but came here illegally, got my citizenship, and decided to join because that's how I felt that I wanted to give back. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it, but give back to your community and whatnot. And every single day I wake up happy and proud, and just this brightness in me that I'm an American and I can wake up and go achieve my wildest dreams because we're all able to. And that's another thing when I hear people say, well, I can't get a job because I'm a minority and I'm this or I'm that, or I don't have these opportunities. It's like, dude, I'm here to tell you, you do have them. There's resources everywhere. You just got to find them and put yourself out there and do it. And that's the great thing about America. And that's what I fucking love. And that's how I want everybody to feel and realize that we are the greatest country because of that.
Yeah. I think this whole conversation is something, man. Even in our offices here at Meat Eater, in my personal life, everybody's talking about it. Everybody, I think everybody I talk to wants to have a solution, wants to know what to do. So I really appreciate you guys taking a little bit of time to talk about it because it's hard to get it right. We're probably not going to get it right, but
no.
As you said, Matt, we're just going to keep getting better at it and do what we can do every day as people.
Yeah, my last advice on that is just like everybody needs to take a chill pill, right? We're all like a composition of conditioning. We've all had experiences in our life that might make you feel one way about a culture or someone else. If you just take a step back and when someone disagrees with you or has a different opinion and not go, you're a effing idiot, and you just go, okay, why do you think that way? And then have that conversation, you might actually fucking learn something, or they could learn something from you. Like 22-year-old Matt was an idiot and 33-year-old Matt is a little less of an idiot, right? So it takes time to learn the environments around you and experience new things in life. Just take the opportunity to be a sponge and learn. And it's like the best advice I could ever give people is just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Go for the facts.
I think both of you guys are just good examples of those things too, like where you came from, where you are, the things you've done to serve, the things you've done as Matt is an entrepreneur and is just like a thought leader. Same for you, Crispy. Like when I first met you, you weren't where you are today, even. No,
I was a jackass when we first met.
You didn't have any rap songs or anything that I was aware of at the time. So even from then till now, it's amazing to see how far you've come. But it wouldn't have mattered. I fucking dug how you were and how you approached things the first moment I met you, no matter what you were doing otherwise. So I think that it's good to have folks like you out there, and that's why I was excited we could get you both on at the same time because it's just being an influencer is kind of a bullshit word, but being an example is certainly not, in my opinion.
Heck yeah.
So
I feel like I'm just on a cool call with like one of my best friends and you. This is cool. Friday cocktail hour or something.
I should have. Yeah. I had that idea, man, because we did a review of Tiger King and got real drunk. I feel like this could have been the same if I'd have brought. I didn't bring any alcohol to the party, unfortunately.
Hey, listen, I got a bottle of Jamin with an arm's reach, so
don't tempt you, dude. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's like 4 o'clock on a Friday, and you're in your neck of the woods. So like it's happy hour, man. We're a hunting podcast. We talk about all kinds of things, but I wanted to talk about kind of like the intersections of hunting culture and gun culture, and like how all of this has kind of spun up over the years. I've been a part of it. I worked at the NRA. I've also been attacked by them, so like I know a little.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
So I understand a little bit of the dynamic of both sides, and how it feels to kind of have to like pass the purity test. And so Matt, in terms of the purity test, and what I'm referring to is kind of like how legit you are in each space. Because in hunting, you have to do a certain thing or project a certain thing to be legit. And I know in the gun culture, there's in the tactical culture, there's a way as well. Like how would you articulate, kind of how we work, how our culture kind of defines these purity tests?
Shoot, man, I don't know. I mean, for me, like I didn't set out to necessarily influence people in gun culture. I mean, I've been called, I romanticized gun culture, I believe, by the Washington Post or whoever did that article on me. It was great. I get a quick story in that I trolled the interview guy when he showed up. I laid all my guns out in my house, and I was wearing Ranger panties and cowboy boots, and picked them up in my Razor. And I was like, let's just take this dude for a wild Texas ride. No, I mean, I post what I love, right? So I do the things that I love. I don't necessarily do them for like clout or people to think I'm a cool guy with guns. I just love the Second Amendment. I deployed in multiple capacities over nearly a decade, and my main life-saving equipment was a firearm. And so I believe that I'm fairly efficient with it. And if I can go out there and preach, responsible firearm ownership, I think it's an amazing thing. And the problem is a lot of people, they're so afraid of what they don't understand. And I think that's really the outside perspective on the gun community, is we're a bunch of gun nuts that are loose cannons. And I'm like, trust me, Crispy, me, you, we're the guys you want in our team if something goes south. And I think a good lens and new perspective that people have seen throughout the COVID and these lootings is, I can't call the cops. Their bandwidth is capped. So I have to be responsible for my own safety. And it's a very freeing thing to know that you can be self-reliant yourself with proper training and understanding how a firearm works, and implementing that as life-saving equipment if you have to use it. And hopefully, like my previous statement, I never have to shoot anybody ever again in my life. That would be a godsend. But I'm not going to be ignorant and live in a fake bubble that someone crazy idiot might not try to come onto my house property at 2 a.m. and gun me down. That's why I sleep with an AR. And it's like, well, you don't need that. Bullshit. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Crispy, you want to talk about that purity test a little bit too, and whether you had to take it and people have like attacked you for that? Like, you could both tell me that's bullshit too. Like, no, there isn't one, or I'm getting it wrong.
No, yeah. I was literally just gonna say that it's bullshit. There's no purity test. There's none of that. I mean, I guess I've been welcomed with open arms in the gun industry just because I use them, I utilize them, I talk about them. I always, I just love weapons. Again, it's something that I held in my hand, saved my lives overseas multiple times. I was able to use that weapon to save my buddy battles' lives. So I keep these things very close to me. And just to draw the same thing that Matt said, I've said this in numerous podcasts and magazines. It's, my time is done in the service. All the stuff that I did overseas and the lives that I took, I left all that behind. And I would never, ever in a million years want to kill an American to protect myself. But if it happens, it happens. But I'm not out there constantly hoping, I'm like, oh, I wish a motherfucker would, so I can, bust it out and I can be featured in the NRA, and, they come into my house and because they're so quick to do that shit, they'll jump over it and they're like, look at this guy, and then they'll use you, for whatever their political reasons are. But it's just one of those things. No, I grew up, because I joined when I was about 18. I grew up with firearms, and I've always known them, and I've used them to hunt, and I go to the range, and it's therapy, and I keep all these things going. And another thing that it does for me, it's very therapeutical, and it helps me with my hands because I got to load magazines. I got to keep that trigger discipline. I got to make sure I got a good grip on my handgun. So all these things are helping me, make my life better every single day, because it's keeping all my joints going. They're not getting stiff and none of that. So to me, there was never this purity of like, I got accepted by the gun industry because this gun tuned dude is. No, it's just I've always been me, and I do me. And if people like it, cool. If they don't, fuck them. I don't care. They don't pay my bills. I can honestly say that to you right now. I don't care what others think about me.
Yeah, I like wading into all this, and I kind of just love to, as some folks will say, like just court these issues that are kind of fraught, that have duality, that have gray areas, that just don't have things like that's just my personality. It's maybe unfortunate at some level, but it's it also helps me understand, some of these issues and all the things we've talked about up until now all have gray areas and nuance and different things that they're never going to be one way or the way you want them, and there's no reason to be an absolutist. And I think what you both were kind of just saying there, if I could maybe summarize, is that's it. Like, just there is no absolute way to be in this culture. You just be yourself. And both of you guys have had good success. Like, Matt, what do you attribute like Black Rifle success and your success and Evan's success, all of that? What do you attribute that to? Something particular?
Hard work. I I said that 20 times. I work out my intelligence, man. I'm not that smart of a guy. I just go to the grind every single day, and I don't fall into victim culture. I've had tragedy in my life. I've had failures. I've had, depression. I've had all these things, but I don't let it conquer me. I consistently just wake up and go, I got to be a better fucking version of myself. And, maybe some of that stemming from, tragedy in the military and seeing friends that got lost way too early. And it's like my obligation as an American and a human to be a good dude and try to inspire people to live a happy quality life by any means necessary. And, I think for Evan and I, we just saw a big hole in American business as far as how do we create a cultural movement that supports our veterans, and it didn't really exist at the time. And, we do a lot of comedy based stuff and satire based stuff because as Crispy knows, and I'm sure you do, a lot of the way we dealt with these like really dark situations was having a macabre sense of humor, having like, we could joke about terrible things. And it didn't mean that we believed in the statements or the narrative of the joke, but it was a way and a relief system for us to like clear our minds and then be mission focused. And it doesn't mean that I don't fall into my own holes here and there all the time, but I just try to stay mission focused. What matters? I want my dad to, live out his retirement and be super happy. I want my wife to love her life. And I want my best friends and my family, and then it just grows and grows from community to country. And if I can be an advocate for that and show people that you can kind of throw away all the bullshit that life throws at you and take your punches and get back up, then I think I'm doing an okay job.
Do you guys both, I mean, it sounds to me like you guys both think that your time in the military put that in you, grounded you, and made you understand how quickly it could all go away.
Yeah, I think the military taught us how to appreciate life, how to appreciate the little things, and not to take anything for granted. I think Matt and I both saw a lot of friends die around us at a young age, and that shapes you up. That forever will change you. I mean, it changed me 100%. I used to be this freaking kid that thought he had the whole world to him because he was, a collegiate athlete, and I thought I was Billy Badass going to the military and all. But I mean, the military changed that all for me. I saw one of my best friends die in that vehicle with me that day, and lost another great friend that day, and then lost about 14 in the whole deployment, and it forever changed me. It taught me to appreciate life, to really be a kind person. I mean, there's just so many things that it taught me that it's changed me into who I am today.
Matt? I completely agree with that. I mean, you can summarize that in so many different ways. Like life's a white light switch. You never know when someone's going to turn it off. We're born terminal. There's no dress rehearsal. And I think when you experience how quick life and how fleeting it is, it really gives you a profound respect of the time here on earth and how important it is to lead with love and empathy, and then always have, violence as a tool that you hope to never pull out of that toolbox. But the reality is there's some really evil people in this world. And, the military absolutely shaped my perspective on life, and it's made me an absolute better person. It really has.
Matt, what's in terms of hunting, what's that done for it? Like, I know we've kind of already touched on that, like kind of the extrinsic stuff that the stuff that we get from it, the meat and kind of the benefits. But what for you personally has hunting done?
I grew up hunting and fishing. It's pretty crazy. Our parents let me do that with my brother, who's about 3.5 years older than me. When I was like 12 and 13, my dad would give us a 12 gauge shotgun and 22 back when you could do this. And we drive out, 4 hours up in the hills. And it's some of the fondest memories I've ever had. And Crispy knows my brother real well, Alan. And we would just take a sleeping bag, a little gas burner, and literally hunt for food. And we bring one MRE. And it was just so freeing to be a part of the environment and being self-reliant on yourself. And I think now, after I've been deploying pretty much my whole 20s and I'm in my 30s now, I have the ability to go experience these awesome community-based activities like hunting and waking up in the morning with Crispy in a lodge and drinking Black Rifle coffee and then shooting the shit while we put on our camo and then going out and then but treasuring the harvest and the process of hunting. It's just amazing. And I think you have a far more intimate and profound respect for wildlife when you see this gorgeous, beautiful red stag, and then you take its life and you see the process of processing it, and then it turns into Crispy coming over to my house, and now we're eating Red Stag burgers today, laughing about life. I mean, the whole experience from start to finish is just, it's absolutely amazing, and it gives you so much more respect of this crazy ecosystem that we have.
Yeah, Crispy, I got to ask you how you guys met, but Crispy, give me a follow that up.
Dude, how we met?
Yeah, I got to just give me how you met, because I feel like you guys.
So we met at SHOT Show. SHOT Show, just that thing. We met out there, and then I think we got drunk at a club, exchanged numbers, and we all went home. And then Matt called me out of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm doing this piece about my favorite 5 top military people, whatever. Like, are you okay if I use some of your stuff on social media?" And like the whole time, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's Mike Best! It's Matt Best! Like, why is he calling me?" And went from there. And then when Black Rifle started and they went in South Lake, I flew out there and hung out with them, and just super fucking awesome dude, open arms. Just felt like family right off the get-go, man. Like open arms, no judgment, no judgment from previous stuff and nothing. It was just like, hey, I like who you are, I like what you stand for, and welcome to the family. And that's pretty much how we met, man. And then we've been super close friends ever since. And I can't even imagine it or tell you all the things that Matt, Nevin, and everybody's done for me, and how they've been there for me since that day. And I mean, I just love these dudes, and it's kind of hard to look back at that and say that's how we met, because I feel like we've been family for so long that I kind of want to say like, oh, he's my cousin from so and so or whatever. But yeah, yeah. So
Here, man. Matt, I mean, you're gonna have to say some way nicer things about Crispy here to even win the battle.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, we can do the hype train here. I don't think Crispy knew how much he inspired me. I followed him on Instagram, and I had called him because I was doing this kind of third party in media where they asked me my top 5 like inspirational veterans, and it's hard to pick because I knew so many epic dudes and Medal of Honor recipients. But there's something that really stood out about Crispy was his story, and it's so in line with my mission statement in life. I mean, Crispy has every opportunity to be a victim. He could sit on his couch and go, woe is me, look at me, I'm burnt, I'm missing a limb, give me life. But he said, fuck that, and he's taken life. And it's so inspiring to see someone that is considerably socially looked at as a far less fortunate person than me, crushing it and being more inspirational than me. And it motivates the literal shit out of me to know that there are people out there that can work through all the hardship in life, and not only to benefit their own life, but to be a leader in a community. And I just love that mentality. And I want to partner with people going forward that spread that message to get rid of this like bullshit victim social media culture that goes like, let's help out. Let's help people. Fucking A, man. Like, let's do good in this world. Let's leave it better than we saw it when we got here.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I like hear you guys say that, because I have so many, and Crispy knows this about like the guys at Archery Country or a bunch of people that I've met through hunting, and the people I have on this show. Like, I feel, and I would echo what you said, Matt. I feel like it's just a bunch of dudes just talking. Like, there's nothing. Like, we kind of, every time you talk, I say amen in my head. I don't know if I say it out loud, but there's this version where people that hunt, or people that kind of, especially you guys, you have shared experience in the military, which I don't have, but I see it in the hunting world. I meet other people who are, in the profession, and we have a professional friendship, and at least it starts that way. And then we think the same. We value the same things. And I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, whether it's hunting that kind of is the glue, or it's just the type of people that are drawn to doing something like this, talking about this stuff for a living, doing it for a living or whatever. But I see it, man. I've had a lot of things that started out as kind of a professional friendship and an admiration that turned into just like a deep, long-lasting, lifelong thing. Is that kind of how you feel, Crispy?
Yeah, 100%.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there, because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth.
I guess moving on to the social media aspect of it. I mean, both of you guys spend a lot of time there. That's how I know you, Matt, from just following that, seeing what you do. You inject comedy to it, which you've already talked about, levity. You see that in a Black Rifle coffee brand. We were talking about here the other day in the office that one of the reasons we admire the brand Black Rifle Coffee over and above the product is that you guys are just who you are. And as you've grown, you've kept that macabre sensibility that you mentioned. You've kept that going. And most companies, as they grow, kind of have to get blander so more people can connect to them. How have you guys approached that as you've kind of gotten bigger over the time?
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, the company, the two driving heads of this thing, and we have an absolutely phenomenal team. Like I said, over 200 employees. We have people that participate socially like Crispy and help with other brand aspects. But, Evan and I are leading the brand, and the brilliance of that is we don't placate to corporate culture. At the end of the day, what we want the brand to look like, for better or for worse, we're going to do it. And I'm not a pushover. I'm not going to let someone tell me to change. You can't say the F word anymore because you might, granted, there's certain restrictions on social media and you have to, pivot here and there to market the company. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is what we're going to do. I mean, that is the American spirit. That's what entrepreneurialism should be. And that's why I think the company hasn't changed, is because we have such a good ecosystem and environment at the company. Who we hire, I would rather have a cultural fit that I have to train the job rather than hiring a professional that's going to come in and just disrupt with bullshit microaggressions, right? And so we're very selective in the cultural type that comes a part of the team, because we don't consider it a team, really. It's a family. And that's what we'll stay true to that until, I die in a plane crash or whatever.
Don't take me with you.
Yeah.
And it has to be something epic like that after all you guys have done. I feel like, especially for you, Crispy, we got to talk about social media, and we'll probably end up just talking shit about it. But that's all right, man. That's okay. Can you just how do you handle social media? What do you read the comments? Do you not? What's the whole thing? I've heard a million of people talk about this, but I want to hear what you want to say about it. Just let it loose, man.
I do read the comments. I do read the DMs. I try to get us back as many people as I can. Just because I know I put out myself out there, whether it be through tragic things that's happened to me or something positive or whatever the case is, I know I'm putting myself out there and I'm making my personal life available to everybody else. And people are going to have questions. People are going to say their opinions. And, it comes to a point where I take all the positive things because there's more positive than negatives. And I use those. If I'm able to give back, if I'm able to use my following to help others, or if one of my posts touches one person out of everybody that was contemplating suicide or just calling it quits, or whatever the case is, if it touches one person a day and it makes them a better person, then I'm all for it. And I love reading the comments. I love reading the DMs sometimes. Like, man, I've had cases where I had a gentleman who was out in, I can't remember what part of the world it was, but he was with his wife taking their first honeymoon, and they've been married for 30 years. And this wave came in and pushed them into the water. She ended up drowning, and he told me that there was a point in his life where he was in a point there that he was just going to give up on his life and just say, "Fuck it, I'm done." And for some reason, Crispy the fuck on was in his head, and he kept saying it and saying it, and he was able to swim back. And they picked him up and they got him out. Unfortunately, his wife didn't make it, but he told me that my motto helped him, and he still to today says it. And even though he's a pastor, he says it when he's by himself. And things like that have touched me. Things that I've been able to do with burn kits have really, really made me admire and love more social media, because there is a lot of negative things. I mean, there is DMs that I've opened up where people have called me all kinds of names because they probably don't agree with the things that I say, and it's okay, because I can look at that comment and I can delete it and never see it ever again, but I can open up a positive one. So there's more positive than negative to it. And honestly, comments like that are just, they're weak to me. They don't mean anything. Like, it goes, I read it and I forget about it. But yeah, I try to interact as much as I can with people, again, because I put my life out there like that. And I want to be very open. And, like Matt said earlier, I want to make an impact in this world, and I want to make sure I can help change lives. And ultimately, that's my goal with social media.
Yeah. Matt, you read comments?
Yeah, I do. I don't go through all of them. I think when I first started social media, I would scroll through 1,000 comments and look for the one bad one and fun up over it. But I think that the way I look at social media, right? It's like it almost be like science in a sense of, I care about what my peers have to say. So when you're doing a scientific article, you care what the doctors have to say because they're in that community, and you as a collective are defining where that goes. And so I care about like what my guys downrange are doing and all of this. I still talk to a lot of the upper echelon tier units, and I have friends there, and I'm like, how are we received over there? And they're like, you guys are doing amazing things for us. I'm like, okay, roger that. And then I'm not going to care when some fucking idiot comes on here. And I'm sure, just like both of you, I've been called every name in the book. I've gotten
I've seen it.
my wife has been attacked. I mean, it has been brutal over the years, but at the end of the day, it's very resemblant of what Crispy's outlook on it is. It's like you see the change that you have, and you really will never hear about a lot of these things. Like when I did my book signing, I had people come up to me like, dude, I had a pistol in my mouth and I watched How to Be an Operator, and I decided to get back in the gym, rekindle my relationship with my wife. I'm like, that stupid ass poorly edited video made you do that? So you really never know the impact that you can have in people's lives. And it is an absorbed risk as any person that puts themselves out in social media. When you step on that stage, you're going to get criticized. And to Crispy's point, I think that you can disagree with your statements and opinions, but action is what truly matters. And I'm sure Crispy and I disagree on some things in life, but I know he acts in an empathetic and loving way towards humans and towards his community. And that's what matters most to me. I see him put the work in and make change. And then if we disagree on some frivolous bullshit, who cares? I mean, and then it obviously gets worse and worse from more political spectrum or opinion-based spectrum that you go from my general ideas and values in life. But I don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and every time I click on and it's two celebrities talking to each other, I mean, what we would say B or A-list celebrities, this comes up. This is something that comes up because they're dealing with it. And especially folks that have like a more creative endeavor at the heart of what they do. there's criticism that they know that's coming when they're making that movie or making that music. They know that it's coming. And what I think if everyone should rewind and listen to what both these gentlemen just said, because, you know, when I write an article or create a podcast, I don't do it thinking about what the criticism might be from what I'm trying to create. I'm creating what I think is right and have, you know, the willingness to put it out there and see what happens.
There's a really fun, I love exercises. I love like challenging my psychology. And a fun one I heard from a friend was go look at your favorite movie, pick your favorite movie of all time, and then go to IMDb and read the negative reviews. Right? I'm serious. Like, for instance, I love Saving Private Ryan. I think it's one of the best war films ever made of all time. You go in and read some of the 1-star comments, you're like, oh, people are just haters in this world. You know, like they have no understanding of the process from script to screen and how long it took them and the revolutionizing camera angles and telling this brilliant American war story that, you know, whatever, right? But like, there's always going to be the 1-stars in life. But the good thing about that is the 1-stars who are using all their emotional output to fucking break you down. They're never going to be successful. They're just going to live in that swamp pool of negativity, and then I'll focus on the positive and keep pushing forward.
All right, we're gonna do that, Matt. Right now, Joe, we need your help there, buddy. You're gonna be our Jamie. I'm Joe Rogan, and you're Jamie. Okay, get to googling. Saving Private Ryan. We're gonna talk a little bit. We'll let you Google Saving Private Ryan, and then I'm gonna read some shitty comments. Crispy, Crispy, what's your movie, man?
Oh man, that's like my want-to-go movie that I watch a lot. Man, probably Forrest Gump, and I really every time I fly, I watch Lawless.
Yeah. Okay. Did you look up Saving Private Ryan, Joe? Hurry up. Jamie would have had this shit up by now.
Yeah. Damn it.
God, you can't find good. All right. Well, find me a negative comment that we can read, man. Jamie, we would already been watching the video.
I mean, there's 8,700 1-stars on Saving Private Ryan. So.
Oh, what?
That's a good one.
I mean, it's voted at 8.6 rating, but
Forrest Gump. I was thinking Forrest Gump too when you said that. When you started saying that, Matt, that's probably what I would pick, because every time I watch Forrest Gump, I just at the end I just cry a little bit and stand up,
it's a good story.
The sky. Like, it's just
maybe we're all just Tom Hanks fans, you know, Lieutenant Dan.
Dude, when I found out that Tom Hanks got COVID, I was like, don't you dare take Tom Hanks, you son of a bitch.
Now it's a real issue.
Yeah. You could take Rita Wilson. Don't take Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Just kidding, Rita. Just kidding. You found something yet, Joe?
No.
What in the world? I found something already. This is Forrest Gump.
On Forrest Gump?
Yeah, it's Forrest Gump. Self-ingratiating, and for this viewer, maddening. It blends the comic with the Christly, the satirical with the sentimental, the free-thinking with the fuddy-duddy. Eat one. That's not... Nigel Andrews from the Financial Times. Chris, do you have any official comment about that review?
I do real quick. He sounds like a dude that 1-stars Yelp reviews and says the service was great, everything was awesome, but there was a paper towel in the bathroom floor and he fucking 1-starred it.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. He's like, oh God, you took the words right out of my mouth.
All right, Joe's got us one. He's got one for say. It's from an article in Wired called "Reconsidering Saving Private Ryan." According to that review, Saving Private Ryan was undermined by Spielberg's trademark, strained seriousness, corn, and schmaltz. Though widely hailed as a new sort of war movie, The Economist said Saving Private Ryan is rooted in Hollywood tradition and making movies only from the viewpoint of the victors. Oof.
Wait, so are they saying Nazi Germany should be under a better lens than like giving Hitler some clout or something? Because I'm super confused on that sentiment.
I'm confused that they're saying like we need to know what the Nazis were thinking there. Proves your point, Matt. There's some confusing, weird reactions to just about every piece of art or commentary ever put out. We should read a good one about Forrest Gump, because Forrest Gump is just.
It's an iconic movie.
As long as you don't look up reviews on my movie, we're good, okay?
No, we won't go there.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Dude, I give your quarantine song 5 stars, a glowing review.
No. He made a movie called Range 15. I don't think you've seen it. I'm gonna send you I'm gonna send you a DVD, Benny.
What's it called? What's it called?
Range 15.
Range 15.
Let's not go down. That was years ago.
You brought it up, Matt.
If I wasn't a good host, if I was a bad host, I'd let you slide on this.
That's fine. But you can. I said I have thick skin, so you can read a negative view.
Okay.
You'll get some juicy ones in there.
All right, it's called Range 15. I've never seen it, but
I'm gonna send you a copy.
I'm coming off of. Are you in it, Matt? Oh, there you are. Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah, I'm the lead. It's a B minus movie that made veterans by veterans. It was made for a specific community, and it did its job, and I think it entertained a lot of people. But obviously, when you start branching out from the humor we have, people are not very understanding of it. That was a long time ago.
You never know. We may. I'm just gonna play this at the feet of Crispy. Joe's playing me the trailer right now.
Oh,
dude, it got an 84% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. That's huge. That's probably better than Forrest Gump.
Let's not compare those two.
The people have spoken. Oh, who is in this movie?
Hey, it could have gotten 90%, but I wasn't in it, so that's why it dropped.
It was. You're completely right.
This is something I wish I knew about before this. You got Sean. You got Rudy in there.
Mm-hmm.
William Shatner. Well done. I don't see any negative reviews. Not one.
Matt, what's that dude's name? The general, the black dude that played there. I love that dude. What's his name? He's like one of my. Yes, dude. That dude's fucking hilarious.
I'm watching it. Joe's playing me the trailer. I feel like get some, That's awesome. All right, we'll move on. I had to at least pause there. I don't know where to go from there, but I had to at least pause there. I probably looking forward into the future. Matt, like, what's the, we've all talked about the present and how much it kind of sucks. You guys have convinced me to not wallow any iota. But what's in the future for you, man? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know, man. I got some big projects I like to challenge myself, and so I'll probably direct another film myself. Not that I didn't direct the last one, but I would love to direct the film. I'm working on a short film right now that's Christy will be in as well. That's the preliminary shooting days are already in edit, so I don't know, man. I really just rally around Black Rifle Coffee and growing that enterprise and hopefully changing the cultural perspective of veterans across America and giving them a place to walk into where we hang American flags and people don't get disgusted. I mean, if they do, they can cordially leave our place of business, So really just focus on Black Rifle, becoming a better executive, and then really challenging my creativeness in life, through music and art and films. So I don't know what that exactly looks like, but it will be a very fun and work intensive process, which I like.
Yeah, man. How did you ever think about defining yourself? I know everybody tries to define you based on what you do. Like if somebody asks you, like, what do you do? Who are you? Is there a way you explain that?
I usually just say entrepreneur because if I start going into the projects I've done, it confuses people and they usually don't believe me. And that sounded self-infatuating, but like I wrote a book and a movie and I run a business and they're like, okay, this dude's an idiot. But no, I'm just an entrepreneur, man. And I would like artist, maybe. I don't know. I like to make people laugh.
Dude, it works.
The best medicine in life, dude.
Dude, it works. You've been making people laugh well before quarantine, well before all this crap we're going through now. And Range 15 is in my mind. But Crispy, what do you got going on, dude? What are you looking forward to?
Man, dude, there's things that I've been wanting to do, and I think the next project for me is buy a ranch and host people out there, not necessarily make it a nonprofit. I don't want to make a nonprofit. There's millions of nonprofits out there, but I want to provide a place where people can come out and hang out and bring their families. I think a lot of these nonprofits that do hunting trips don't necessarily involve the family. And me being an injured guy, I understand how family is very important. My family dropped every single thing going on that they had in their lives, and they came and took care of me. So they experienced everything that I went through, it was emotionally draining for them. There was times where, I saw my mom hurting, and it bothered me a lot. And there's all these trips that these guys take and go all these cool things, but they don't bring their spouses, they don't bring their kids, they don't get them involved. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to share more of the outdoors with not only the warrior but their family members, and be like, this is what we have going on here. If your wife or husband, daughter, son, whatever, don't want to hunt, hey, we got horses you can ride. You don't want to ride horses? Let's go shoot some guns. Let's teach you how to operate and function this weapon. If they don't want to do that, hey, we have a pond where we can go catch bass or whatever we want to throw in there, and just get them in tune with their loved ones again. That's really what I want to do, and I want to do more stuff in the burn community, and just continue to do what I do, man. And that's honestly what my goals are, and start a family, and in the midst of all that.
Little Crispies, yeah.
Little Crispies, man.
We might as well drop them off at Matt's house.
The most important question, I was just going to say, do I get to be Uncle Matt?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, what an honor.
What's the Uncle Matt? What's your strategy with Crispy's not yet existing children? Like, you're gonna spoil them? You're gonna give them like what?
Well, I'm a great uncle, man, because I don't want kids, so I spoil them. Take them to the river. I'll swim with the kids, and the second they like poop or cry, I give them back to the parents. That's not uncle duty. That's not uncle duty. Okay, that's parental.
Well, you guys gotta come to Montana, number one, and we'll chase around some big elk.
Come on,
public lands at the very least, or I got to come down. I need to kill an axis deer, dude. I'm out of axis deer meat, and I had a hunt scheduled right during quarantine. I had to cancel it, so I got to get my ass back down there.
Plan a hunt with you, me, and Crispy. We'll take you axis hunting. We got a lot out here, man. We'd love to take you. I'd love to host you.
I'd love to come. Let me just say, we'll close on some other things, but I just want to say this: both you guys, I know that you have, big followings and you've done a lot in your lives, but like to hear you talk about very difficult issues, very polarizing things, and even things like social media and the way that you do, I know I talk to a lot of people on this show, and I can tell you guys live the shit that you're saying. And like, there's not an inkling of doubt that what you're doing is the right thing for you. So just want to say that comes through, both of you. So thanks,
dude. Thanks, man.
Let's plan our hunt. Like, when are we going to do this thing? It's too hot down there right now. There's too many rattlers down there right now.
Yeah, but right now it's perfect season to come hunt axis.
That's
you
true.
know this.
It's the rut, son.
It's the rut, son.
It's the rut, son. And let's not forget that axis are exotics. So we can use night vision if we wanted to.
Dude, I got some night vision I can bring.
I got thermals.
Dude, they're the most delicious. Yeah, that's the one thing I miss about living in Texas. It's like of the many things. Turkeys too, man.
Yeah, I move out closer to Benny, and then he leaves. I was like, all right, dude, I get it.
I only did that so you had like a northern place to go, man. Like, I only did that so you had a place to hunt elk. Although you can hunt elk, you can hunt just about anything in Texas if you look in the right spots.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, the Axis Rut is going. I guess it's first week of June, man. The Axis Rut is flowing.
I'm going on Wednesday.
Yep, and depending on that, I think Crispy and I'd love to treat Crispy to it, but we're going to go, if we're still up for it, Crispy, to go up to Record and shoot an elk because I want the meat, and we'll go bow hunt.
Let's go.
I think August, right, is the rut?
August, yeah.
Yeah.
Joe's telling me he wants to go. I don't know, man. You got to Google better. You got to Google. Yeah. You got to Google better to earn your time. See, that's just you got to motivate the people around you.
Yeah.
Putting them down. No, we love you, Joe. We love you. But, well, boys, I really appreciate it, man. I won't take up any much more of your time. Thanks for everything. Again, thanks for just freaking being who you are and talking to us. And I will I will see you in Texas.
For sure. Come on.
All right, boys.
And if y'all need any coffee up there, man, just grab my number from Crispy, and I'll get you guys squared away, man. Thanks for all you do. You guys put out some great content, so keep up the good work. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, means a lot. You too, Crispy, man. I want to come down and see you, see all the boys at Archery Country. But I miss Austin. So,
come on,
I'm coming.
Come on. Yeah, I wouldn't say I miss Austin, but I'll meet you there.
All right, dude. We'll see you later.
All right,
Later.
bro. Later.
That's it. That's all. Another episode in the books. Thanks to Charles Rodney. Thanks to Matt Best. Thanks to Omar Avila. Thanks to Phil, the engineer. Thanks to everybody that emails and listens to the show. This one kind of went everywhere, didn't it, Phil?
Yeah, it was a long one, but I think that's good. I mean, I love that you're covering the gamut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when Charles gets in, he's going to just go, and I'm not going to stop him ever. And nor do I think anybody wants me to. And so we knew we would get Charles in here, and we knew he would go and give us a good perspective. Same thing. I'm going to tell you again, man, the same thing with Matt and Omar. If you listen to these people and you don't come out of this with a new perspective, talking about not being a victim, talking about pushing forward, talking about doing positive things, talking about going out in the world and making a difference, you couldn't have put I didn't plan it this way. I didn't plan to put Omar, an immigrant from Mexico, Matt, a white guy from Texas, and Charles Rodney, a black guy from segregationist Louisiana, in the same podcast and think that they would be connecting their thoughts in some way. But if you listen back to this and you listen to these men, you will find that they're talking about essentially the same exact thing. And that's moving through the world in a positive way and watching those waves wash over everyone around you. And so I'm inspired. I'm going to go do more and be better. I hope you can take that away as well. If not, we'll try again next week with Diana Rogers and Rob Wolf, who are currently working on a book called Sacred Cow. That is talking about regenerative agriculture. We're talking about the way that we save the reputation of meat. It's a follow-up on our last conversation with Nick Holla from Impossible and Robbie Sansom from Force of Nature. So hopefully you stick around for us. Episode 130 coming at you next Tuesday. Say bye, Phil.
Goodbye.
Too long, 'cause I can't go a week without doing wrong. Oh, without doing wrong. Without doing wrong. Oh, without doing wrong. Drinking in heaven.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.